Hey guys, today I'm making a quick video about field of view settings and how to optimize them and correct for some of the kind of skewing that can occur. So right now I'm looking at my game in the default 90 field of view, and that's a horizontal referencing field of view. So when you hear field of view numbers, they can be referencing vertical or horizontal. The exact correspondence will depend on the aspect ratio, but roughly speaking, at a widescreen monitor, 78 vertical corresponds to 110 horizontal. And so, for example, in a popular melee slasher game like mine, the default field of view in Mordhau is 78 vertical, which would correspond to 110 horizontal. So we can see what that looks like here. And this still looks pretty good. And the benefit you get when you increase the field of view is you can see more of your peripheral vision. In that case, with the sword, it means you see more of your arms and your sword. It kind of results in you moving back a little bit. Moving the camera back a bit is what it kind of feels like. But overall, this feels pretty good. So a lot of players, particularly advanced players, like to play with an even higher field of view. So if we bring this up to 130, which would correspond to 101 vertical, we can see that it kind of starts to warp the way things look a little bit, and for some people this will definitely make them feel a little bit dizzy. It has a bit of a fishbowl effect, so if I look at the walls on kind of my peripheral vision over there, they definitely start to look a little skewed. And if I look at the clouds are a decent way to see it as well, everything kind of looks a little spherical. And so you have the advantage that you really get to see a lot of what's going on. You have a ton of peripheral vision, but it's a little disorienting, and if you don't focus your eyes on the center cursor, it'll actually kind of make you dizzy if you're not used to it. So there is a solution to this, and as you can see here, I turned on what I'm calling in my game fishbowl correction, and so we're still at that 130 FOV, but suddenly everything is significantly less fishbowly. And there's still going to be a tiny bit of the effect. It's not perfect, and maybe I need to play with the exact parameters of my correction to get it a little better. I'll do that over time. But certainly if you go to something like 120 with the effect on, it really looks pretty good, but you can see that I still get to see my hands and my shoulders quite well. I have that extra peripheral vision. And so this is all done via what's called Panini upscaling. And if you want to play with this manually, you can do this via the console. So there's 3 core parameters here that you'd mess with. There's screen fit, S, and D. And you'd want to take into account the user's FOV and potentially their aspect ratio, and then decide what to do with these 3 parameters. So I'm not going to go too much into depth with playing with all these now. You can search the Unreal documentation to really get a sense of it. But at a high level, the screen fit kind of changes the whole size of the rectangle of the screen in and out. And if you set it too small, you'll see I actually have kind of like a window inside a window. But I can kind of play with getting this bigger and bigger. And when my FOV is high, something like 1 isn't actually quite needed. I can make it a little bigger, and it still won't feel like I'm losing much of my peripheral vision. I'll set that back to 1. The real workhorse of all this is going to be the D and the S value. So I'll set this to something really high at first. It's kind of going to make things feel like they zoom in, but it actually, you can see it's kind of giving it a bit of an ellipsis effect when it's set high. So these little lines here, when I'm looking straight ahead, they start to look curved. And that's kind of doing the opposite of the fishbowling to some degree. So if I play around and based on my current FOV, try and find something where when I'm looking straight ahead, the horizontal lines on the floor look straight, that's roughly going to cancel out a lot of the fishbowling. However, that is going to be centered around the center of my screen. So the S factor then is what lets me kind of correct the corners of my screen. So you can see the S value is, I'll put it really high, it's kind of skewing the corners of those same lines. And so if I play around with the right S and D, ideally I can get them to be kind of straight all the way through. There's still a little curve there, so this wouldn't be quite right. To be honest, I've forgotten what all I've put in at this point, so I won't mess with it too much. So in my game, what I did is I just kind of came up with a formula based on the user's aspect ratio and field of view to do something that gets it about right. I think I probably need to tweak it a little more to get it perfect at all the fields of view, but it's certainly pretty good and a lot better than just having no correction on.